We're getting better at that transition, aren't we? At least I like to think so. Shane, thanks so much for joining.
What's up, guys?
Okay, so we're going to change the topic really fast. And there we go. Cool. Well, it's been an incredible day. And since we're at a transition point, it's a great time to thank all of our sponsors. First, NGS Movement and Positive Impact Podcast for putting on this event. Also for all of our partners who help spread the word, the Aspen Institute Franklin Project, Service Year, and Blab. Oh, Blab and Ashoka U. But great. So Shane, can you introduce yourself for us?
What's up, guys? This is Shane Gring here. I'm calling in from Washington, D.C. It's getting late. My bedtime's approaching, but really excited to check in with y'all, kind of share a little bit of my story and some of the lessons I've learned along my journey so far.
Well, we appreciate you staying up so late. As somebody who actually goes to bed really early, I extra appreciate it. Yeah, after yesterday's session, I'm pretty sure I was ready to go to bed, and it was only 7 o'clock here in San Diego. You did Habitat for Humanity in Colorado. Can you tell us some of the things that you took from that term of service that were so instrumental for your future work?
Sure, and kind of the way I got out there, it wasn't some noble pursuit or any thing changed the world. It really came out of a necessity. When I graduated with my degree in architecture in 2009, it was like the trough of the recession, so there wasn't a lot of jobs out there for folks like me. So ended up at Habitat for Humanity out in Boulder, and really caught fire and got a lot of passion around sustainability and affordable housing, and that's kind of what has led to my current path now with the U.S. Green Building Council and the entrepreneurship ventures I've taken so far. But some of the lessons I've learned at Habitat, I think really prepared me ultimately for this journey of entrepreneurship. And I think one of the major ones, and I think Bryn got into it a little bit earlier around the stipend, and kind of being and learning, becoming empathetic for the group that you're serving. And I think, and I carry this today in my entrepreneurship journey about building with and not for. So putting yourself in a situation where you can empathize, you can build a shared experience, and you can start understanding the users that you're ultimately serving, which I was successful with in Habitat, and I've carried that kind of major lesson throughout my career of really listening to users or listening to the folks that are using whatever product or service that you're implementing, and really building for them. Building with them rather than for them.
Now, having a husband who's gone through and gotten a construction degree, I think it's construction technology, engineering, something or other. It's really fancy. That didn't come up a lot, the building with somebody. It was always building for, or just, taking the plans from the architecture or from the architect. And I know how much construction guys love architects, and just taking those and running with them. What was it like to kind of almost retrain yourself through this process?
Yeah, it's an awesome observation, and something that I guess I didn't realize at the time how I had to. Well, I invested tens of thousands of dollars in this architecture degree. It wasn't until I actually hit the real world I had to reprogram myself and rethink about how how the world actually works, and you get it out. You remove yourself from the theory, the bubble of the college, and see what happens when the rubber actually hits the road. And so Habitat and the service here really provided an incredible opportunity for me to really get in and see how things actually happen. And it was a small enough organization to the point where I had leadership opportunities, the ability to make decisions, the opportunity to truly be in there and serve, that I wouldn't and couldn't get at school because it was so based on design and on theory.
Interesting. What a unique set of different skills that you then brought. And you took this architecture, you took this understanding of building, and you actually created a business. So these are three very different, unique aspects that you brought together in a really cool organization. So first, your business, it touched on professionals, homeowners, and nonprofits. Can you kind of describe how you brought those three together to create this really cool, unique niche around LEED certification?
Sure. So what I realized within a couple of short months out there in Habitat in Colorado was that there was a large group of folks and professionals that wanted to learn about sustainability, especially architects and builders, but really didn't have access to learn that in a hands-on way because schools weren't teaching it well quite yet, and people weren't hiring. So there was really a lack of opportunity for that audience. And then the other side, we had Habitat for Humanity and affordable housing builders that also wanted to figure out sustainability and wanted to build better homes for their families that were safer, used less energy, and had healthier materials, but didn't have the funding or knowledge to do so. And so what I ended up doing during my AmeriCorps year was found a way to match those two groups together. And so we created a kind of a 6-month curriculum that taught students and professionals how to build on a real world home in their backyard and with the community. And they paid a tuition fee to be involved, a small one, to be involved with that project, which helped raise funding for the affordable housing builder to afford the upgrades to the home, and also having a volunteer labor force to help them finish that process. So it resulted in students and professionals gaining that experience and what's called a LEED credential, which is a really important certification within the building industry, as well as a LEED certification and a better performing home for low-income families.
Interesting. Now, you say this was part of your AmeriCorps service. Was this the initial goal of that service, was to kind of create some sort of program, or how did that end up resulting from it?
Yeah, and that's the crazy thing. And I think one of the neat things about the VISTA program is that I was hired to organize the tool trailer and help manage kind of the tool chest.
So we're going to pause right there. You were brought on to organize the tool trailer, and you created a groundbreaking program that connected professionals and homeowners around LEED certifications. That's what the journey was?
Yeah, I guess. It was, I just caught fire around the sustainability idea and really the power to use sustainability to impact people, and to be able to save them time and money on the house, but also impact them long term and really try to break down those cycles of generational poverty. And yeah, I just got caught fire, created a plan, pitched it to the staff that was there. They bought in, and then I went building, and just had the leadership around me that let me pursue it, which is pretty cool.
Interesting. All right. So you have this idea. It's catching fire. You take it to the other staff and you say, let's go. What were some of the initial roadblocks or challenges that you ran into?
I think, fortunately, the organization, which is Flatirons Habitat for Humanity, they had a weird level of trust around me, and really saw I was able to make the business case ultimately to them, which is also it's important in nonprofits as it is in business. I was able to make the financial argument that this is a worthy investment, and so while building traction around that, really continue to articulate and just keep my staff engaged and involved in the process. And I ended up extending my AmeriCorps year about 6 more months to continue refining that process, and have kind of an incubation opportunity within the organization, but then ended up spinning that business or that model out into my own company, which I then ran for 3 years.
Interesting. We did get a comment. It's actually from our co-host, talking about how service years can be great incubators. And it's really unique that you realize that is what this term of service was doing, and then you extended it out to refine that model and take it forward. Now, you said you ran this business for 3 years. It's my understanding that you've actually been acquired. Is that what's happened?
I think that's the most simplistic way to describe it. Basically, the company was called Bould, and we ran this project experience program on affordable housing projects in 10 different states at our highest point. We were running programming with habitats all over the country in this process. But ultimately, kind of when we reached the end, our market was affordable housing builders, which don't have a lot of money, and then students and professionals that were unemployed that don't have a lot of money. And ultimately, it was just not a good business, despite the noble concept behind the program. And so as things fell off, we were in conversations with U.S. Green Building Council. They're the folks behind LEED certification, which you might see in a lot of buildings, especially federal or public buildings, who really liked the model, ultimately because we were helping teach their platform in a much more effective and hands-on way. And so we ended up coming to terms to have them acquire our resources, and then I joined staff at the U.S. Green Building Council to take this concept of matching people to projects for sustainability action, which I've now been building for the last 2 years internally, and we're now slowly going public with this new program around the same concept.
There's two really fascinating points that you bring up there. And first one that I want to go on is the importance of the pivot. A lot of times the initial idea that we come out of the gate with, we have this drive, we have this fire, but it's not sustainable long term. So what was it like to go through that pivot?
It was easier than I thought, at least in this initial phase, because ultimately I think mission was more important to me than the financial gain. I really had this clear idea of where I wanted to take. It was a market and opportunity that I really wanted to pursue, and I knew that was where I wanted to go with my life. And so I've been pretty steadfast with that. And I saw the opportunity to join USGBC, this large NGO with 300 staff, with $50 million operating budget a year. That could really be really light the fire to let this program scale up. And so taking the leap wasn't as hard. Healthcare was I kind of wanted healthcare.
Being in the construction industry, yeah, why would you need healthcare?
Good idea. It was just an organization that I'd always believed in, and I felt like it was a good fit. I will say it hasn't been the easiest, because a lot of things change when you go from your own thing to a large organization. You lose that autonomy. I have to wear ties to work. Yeah. But what you gain is, a staff, a team, really smart people always around you that are compensated appropriately, and ultimately a budget to allow your idea to reach the scale that you really desire. So it's been an interesting trade-off.
I'm so glad that you brought up both the pros and the cons, because a lot of times startups, especially a lot of times in the tech world, their ultimate goal is to get acquired. I don't imagine most of them goal to be acquired by an NGO, but that is the goal, to be acquired by a bigger organization. And I'm so glad that you brought some of the trade-offs. Additionally, kind of going from the owner of this company and having that autonomy, not wearing a tie, but also the control over the decisions. What has it been like to fully kind of emerge into this organization?
It was hard, because ultimately the program that I run and this component of the overall organization is not, it's down the list as far as priorities wise. And so I was brought in to bring more significance around it and to really put a frame and a network behind it. But it's low on the list. It still is. And so that inner battle of, this is the coolest thing ever. I can't believe we're not focusing on this. It kind of tears you up, but you've got to put it in perspective, as well as just understand the opportunity that you have been given and to make the most of it. But I don't know. I'm not, jury's out still, ultimately, on how I think it will all went.
So we're still kind of in the initial phase. As you said, the jury's still out on kind of going through this. It's still very fresh in this transition. But even within that scope, what kind of do you see in the future for this project, particularly in 2016?
So 2016 is the public launch of this platform at USGBC. That's
kind of a big deal.
Yeah, it's been a long time coming. It's a program that we call Advance, and it offers a a framework to move up the path of sustainability leadership. And so it's an incremental approach to allow all organizations, nonprofits, faith groups, service organizations, anyone with a building, existing building, a way for them to assess where they are at sustainability-wise, and then get access to tools and resources to incrementally make a difference and track that change over time. And our hope is to get all the existing buildings domestically on board with this system, so we can really start telling that larger narrative and that larger story. And the cool part as well is the people that are doing this work are these young professionals, these students that I ultimately wanted to provide access and opportunities to. They're the ones going to be doing the work. So we're training a network of ambassadors and advisors and apprentices all over the country to go out and do this type of work on projects that they love and care about. And so it's really making the story of green building about people and about the places that they love. And so look for Advance to launch this quarter. We're getting a bunch of people trained up, and it's really kind of cool after all the slogging and in the background to see this thing go forward.
I absolutely love that sentiment. The story of people in the buildings they love. That is just awesome. We did have a question. What are some example projects?
So some example projects. So we had 2015 was a private beta year for the program, and some of our better examples. One I'm involved with here in DC is with Calvary Women's Service Center. So they have a 42-bed facility here in Anacostia, which is kind of an underserved neighborhood here in DC, and a group of 20 ambassadors, what we call them in the program, adopted that project and are taking an assessment of that project at where it stands sustainability-wise. It's very inefficient. They're spending $5,000 a month in the wintertime to heat the place. They have kind of unhealthy food in the space. Ultimately, this is not a great place for these women that are fighting through domestic abuse issues and homelessness. And this group has created a kind of 10-part plan and are doing service days, energy audits, upgrades, fundraising to really transform this space to make it a productive, positive, healthy place for these women to live and to grow. And at the same time, everyone doing the work is young professionals, and it's a way for them to gain that sustainability project management experience, as well as some technical experience to help them grow in their career and hopefully become a more viable candidate in the job market.
Such rewarding work.
It's pretty fun. It's cool because I get to check out the project. It's just down the way for me, so I get to check in often.
Now let's do a quick geography check. You were in Boulder, Colorado, and now you're in DC. With this new role, do you get to travel across the U.S. and kind of oversee projects? Are you based in DC?
Based in DC. I'll definitely be more on the road this year. We'll be hosting these institutes where we train the ambassadors, this volunteer corps. I'll be in Grand Rapids here soon to get a corps going up there. Jacksonville, LA. We're trying our first, I think, international one where I'll be in Brazil to get a small cohort going there.
When are you going to be in Brazil?
I think that's August. But
are you going to do the Olympics?
Oh, I didn't think about that.
The Olympics are in Brazil this year.
You're right. There might be some overlap. I'm gonna have to look into that.
If you're going to work on scheduling, I would, ensure that there's some overlap, because talk about a I don't know if life-changing experience, but a once-in-a-lifetime experience to attend the Olympics in Brazil. Cool. Sorry, I just derailed you. You guys are starting a project in Brazil.
Yeah, and so the cool part is that, the reason we're able to do that scale so quickly is that U.S. Green Building Council has this LEED program, which has been around for 20 years. And so they've made inroads. There's chapters all over the country. There's green building councils in countries all over the world. And so we're really tapping into this existing network to scale this secondary product to really serve the full market of sustainability, with LEED on the front end and Advance on the rest of the spectrum.
Now, when you say this full spectrum of sustainability, not being a little bit familiar with LEED, but not really knowing that space, what kind of measures are we talking about?
Sure. So LEED is broken. So LEED, which stands for Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design, is a kind of an optional framework that buildings can opt into to understand their environmental impact, as well as make changes to design and construction of that space. And they're measuring a building's performance from an energy perspective, a water perspective. They're also taking into account where it's placed in relation to public transportation, parkland, kind of healthy services and food. We're also looking at kind of renewable energy sites. So what is the rainwater capture? Do you have permeable pavers? And so really looking holistically about how one describes sustainability, really offering teeth to not greenwash or not be too fluffy with the description, but really offer a third-party objective way to say what something that truly is green.
You have a whole bunch of engineers who are focusing on not making the standards too fluffy. Is that what I just heard?
Yeah.
Sounds about right. My engineer husband is laughing in the other room.
Okay. And there's plenty of issues with LEED, but it's really the premier kind of, it's been the most tested and researched part, and that will continue advancing in there. And Advanced is designed to go right next to it to really offer a pathway to make LEED a reality for everyone over time.
Great. I do have a question about that, but Frank Clark, coach, just let us know that the Olympics will be in Brazil August 5th through the 21st.
Ew.
Just,
okay.
Put that. You got most of the month, right?
I might have to get there a little bit early.
There you go.
And then, okay. Thank you.
We've had some travel companies. They can maybe help set you up with a really cool, authentic experience while you're in Brazil.
Oh, wow.
In Chile, if you go to Chile with Keiteka yesterday, you could actually go and go down the Amazon and be like shooting darts out of bamboo.
Sign me up.
Dart guns.
Okay.
All right. Well, we'll connect you with Kyle. Thank you, Frank Clark, coach. And it looks like you can buy those tickets to the opening ceremony now.
Okay.
But my actual question back to sustainability and those measures, what advancements in your time working in LEED have you seen them actually come and bring to the table? What is getting better about the LEED?
About the standard?
Yeah.
And so like structurally where we're moving towards, early versions of LEED were really focused on kind of hypothetical design and construction. So how to build the best possible building. But now as we shift both organizationally and how LEED functions, it's going to be really about ongoing management of a building. And so it's going to be important to not just build, but make sure that that building continues to conform with the standard. It continues to operate the way it was built. And so LEED now has what we call the dynamic plaque, which is kind of a real-time building monitoring and management system, where you can see how over time the human occupants, ultimately the people using the space, are interacting with it. And so LEED, one of the bigger treats of it is that it's a design standard, and we're hoping that this new ongoing focus will help continue its proliferation and legitimacy within the market.
That's going to be some really fascinating data as you go along to actually see how people are using the building, and you're going to have just so much data to go in and improve use and say, we designed this to go a certain way, but now we're realizing that people aren't using it that way, so we're going to focus our energies elsewhere.
Totally. And so it's using the power of big data, also just trying to really understand how users are interacting rather than making assumptions.
I love that you just brought it back to that, because that's such a clear sentence of really understanding how users are interacting. Because when you first started, you were talking about how Habitat for Humanity, you really got to work with people on how they use the home and all of that. And now you're taking those lessons from service and applying other measures that this larger organization bring you for data to measure it, to say, not only are we going to work with people, but we actually get to measure it to see how it's all turning out. Really cool kind of way to bring that full circle. Well, we have a couple more minutes. I do want to open it up to the audience if you guys have any questions. But with that, so you talked a lot about the standards for LEED and some of the different things that you did. And one of them was kind of like rainwater. What are some of the things, knowing that I'm not super into construction, that a building can do to either capture rainwater or help facilitate your efforts there?
Sure. So a lot of the work that I do at USGBC is kind of focused on the lowest hanging fruits. Because ultimately we're helping organizations that are either skeptical or unfamiliar or just unaware of what sustainability is. And so with Advance, the idea is to offer kind of goal setting and guidance to help them identify what's most important to them. Because we don't want to be pushing solar panels or rainwater capture if it doesn't make sense to them and doesn't serve their mission better. And so with a project, we would do some assessments to understand truly what those needs are. And let's say if rainwater capture does become an important thing to them, we would work with the local utilities to find kind of rebate programs. A lot of cities have kind of a barrel program that where they provide a free barrel for you to get it rigged up to the space. And then we'd also recommend if you do rainwater capture, using that to repopulate or use it to water your garden or water your plants or things of that regard, to really create a full system approach to the rainwater component of the project.
Cool. We did get one question. What is your favorite technology? And I'm assuming this is within the scope of the projects.
It's a good question, and I think to a degree, with LEED and sustainability and green building, people are easy or are quick to jump to technology to describe sustainability. And so, given that I'm working with these lower income, kind of marginalized communities, technology is probably the last thing that we go after. So I typically try to defer to kind of more like old school, just design tricks.
All right, you got to give us a trick.
Well, it's just like putting just how you orient the house in relation to the sun, the arc of the sun. So solar, southern facing windows to take advantage of kind of passive solar heat gain, which is kind of like using the sun to heat your house, basically. So having a lot of exposure on the southern side, especially if you're in the U.S. Or of building a home with a lot of mass to it, because that mass can gain heat and then radiate heat during the day and then radiate heat at night because it has that embodied energy in it. And so these kind of like passive strategies, I find the most compelling because it kind of harkens back to when, energy wasn't as cheap or as available or as present. And I think to a degree, we in the US have gotten very comfortable with all of our modern technologies that we've lost these more traditional strategies that ultimately would serve us better and be healthier and better for the environment.
Especially as you get into, leveraging technology and combining it with these, to a certain extent, almost common sense measures to apply to a home. I mean, that seems like where the best sweet spot is just, leveraging all the different tools and sometimes just going back and saying, this worked for a reason. Totally.
And I think, and if I have to answer the question fully, I really get excited about kind of intelligent, like Internet of Things metering, where you can start measuring the actual output of your electric outlets and really get down to the specific unit where energy loss is happening or phantom loads are happening, and really try to have your house be much more intelligent and have it feed into this data system. Cool. So I've seen some really neat things around that I don't do much anymore, but I'm excited about how that space develops.
Incredible. Well, kind of for our last question today, what advice do you have for someone who's early on in their journey towards becoming an impactful change maker?
I would say when I'm out speaking or sharing the story, I really always come back to service. I think it's the most potent way to explore an idea or an opportunity that you might have, and have a testing ground and often a system of support to figure out if that idea is truly worthwhile. And so there's plenty of ways to serve, plenty of organizations to get back and really get exposure to something that you're interested in, to see if it is in fact a career or path that you'd like to go down. And so I encourage folks to get out there, give it a shot and see if it resonates with you.
Incredible. And just so on point for the whole focus of this conference, of the fact that service can take you so many different places, and even just really pointing out the different entrepreneurial models that we've seen within our only 2 days. We've had travel, we've had tech, we've had education, we've had construction. The power of service is really endless. Well, Shane, thank you so much for joining us and for staying up late. We are looking forward to your updates from the Olympics in Brazil. You got to buy those tickets pretty soon.
I'm working on it. I'm searching now.
All right. Thank you so much. And thank you.